Here. Hey.
Hi
Can
there.
you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It took me a minute to figure the audio part out. I see Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
You're actually in the office, I see.
Yeah, we got a few things going on.
Yeah, a few.
All right. I'm going to put you all here on my couch for a second. I had to move away from my desk. So hold on. I'll be right back.
This is when we see her cat walk up and start playing with the iPad.
Start licking the screen. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Not bad, thanks.
So just so you know, I'm expecting a DHL pickup here in just a little bit. So I'll still keep everything on, but I may have to step away from the computer for a minute.
Yep, no worries. Jamie, how your folks doing?
Oh, doing all right. Just preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotta love technology. We are being live streamed on YouTube right now, just in case anybody was curious.
Great.
So just amazed that I was actually able to do that from my house.
Yeah. Who
What's the purpose of being live? What's the purpose of being live streamed on YouTube?
That is meeting the Attorney General's requirements for this to be broadcast as a public meeting. We also publicize the Zoom link, however, so if anybody, and we publicize it on the ads website and the Career Center website. And so if someone did come across that and they were interested in joining in, because again, this is a public meeting, then they could just use the Zoom link and do that. But just in case, to cover all of our bases, is also up on YouTube. Because since we don't have a physical location for this public meeting, that is fulfilling the requirement that it is, again, like broadcast, and it will be recorded so that it can be accessed later. Okay, let's see here.
So Tara, who is not able to join?
Everyone from the executive committee indicated that they were either available or probably available today. And so let's see here. I'm just pulling up the list now, but let's see, we've got it looks like, let's see, who are we? We're missing Michelle.
No, she's on.
Well, the other Michelle.
Oh, sorry.
Michelle Sister. Yeah. So I don't see Michelle. I don't see Andy, and I don't see.
Let's see. I see Andy now.
Yep.
Our gallery view here. Let me see really quick if I happen to get an email from her. No, I don't have any other emails. Okay.
About John.
I'm here.
John, let's see.
Just Skyped Michelle. I'll find out if she's going to be joining in a minute.
Okay. Oh, I see her. I see her. I see her name. I had to scroll through all of my lists. And yeah, and John Baines. Are you on, John? Let's see. said he was
Carissa.
available.
Hey, there's Andy. Hey, Andy. Hi, Carissa.
Let's see here.
Well,
Tony and Jason and Liberty and David, Katie Joe. I think all the ad folks are here.
So I don't see John Baines on the invite that on my calendar invite.
Well, if he's not, then he wasn't on the list that we've been talking about. So how about I'll forward it to him now. But this is what we've been discussing with trying to get these lists up to date. So thank you for pointing that out.
Sorry.
He's on the list.
Hmm.
I'm very sure he's on the list. I was looking at the Outlook stuff. We can discuss it later, but I don't think they've updated Outlook itself.
Okay. Well, let me just send this to John right now. Katie Jo, can you go offline and call him, please?
Yes. Yes.
I just sent him the note. All right. We can wait a couple more minutes. You know where the list is, Katie Jo, of contact info? Okay, she's muted. Okay. So other than John, we've got everybody.
I see Michelle's name keep popping up. Let me see if I see her.
She's having some issues with
Yeah,
her
I was.
connectivity.
But I used my cell phone instead and it seems to be working. Can you see me and hear me?
I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Okay, let me see if I can figure that out.
Technically, Dana, we could go ahead. There you are. Hi,
There
Michelle.
she is. Yeah, that's fine. I see her now, but I was just gonna say we could go ahead and get started. So I think other than John, there she is. Hey, Michelle. Other than John, I think everyone is here. So thanks for joining, everyone. I know this was, and I'm gonna be looking down at my phone that has the agenda, so bear with me. But I know this was a real short notice, so I appreciate everybody getting on. Tara and I have been talking quite a bit, as you can imagine, lately about primarily the RFP process and how we're managing that in this current environment. So that's primarily what we wanted to talk about today. And I think Tara, you had some things regarding guidance from the cabinet, et cetera, that we can talk about as well. So before I do that, I don't think there is, but does anybody need to self-identify?
No.
Okay, because we do need some action today. And I'll just, Tara, I'll just consider that me going down the list is all calling the roll and calling the meeting to order if you need that for your minutes.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so jump in, Tara, because I'm going off my phone. I don't have my notes necessarily in front of me, but as you all aware, we were right in the middle of RFP. I know Jamie knows this very well, but the RFP response process, and we had received those end of February, I think, and we were normally we would be getting ready to review those in the next Program and Youth Committee meeting, which is in a couple of weeks. Obviously, given the current climate and with COVID and everything, all the social distancing, we're not going to be doing that. So one of the things that Tara and staff have done is reached out to the state for some guidance on that. And Tara, I can let you talk about what the guidance is, and then we can talk about what our plan is.
Yes, absolutely. I'm trying here with multiple devices to pull up my shared content, and unfortunately it is not cooperating with me, but I will hopefully get this pulled up so that I can share it with you. But I'll go ahead and just walk you through it where we are. As you mentioned, Dana, with the situation that we have at hand, the staff have been extremely busy switching to telecommuting, and really reworking all of the functions of the Career Center to be virtually based. And by the Career Center, I really mean the system of all 5 locations. So just to highlight very quickly, we have been able to get one common phone number up for all of those. Everything is now happening by phone, by email, by chat. And I do just want to applaud all the efforts of all the staff and our current operator and direct services provider for all of the work that they have been able to do in that regard. So with that in mind, and with the time challenges that all of you have as well, changing your work in light of all of this telecommuting, the state did provide us with guidance to allow up to a year of contract extension if we would like that. We, as a staff, I feel that a year is really longer than what would be advisable. But we think a 6-month extension would allow us to get through this turbulent time, but also allow the current RFPs that have been submitted to be able to be returned to, so that the applicants can have, sufficient consideration at a time when everyone will have time to read their applications and really consider them thoroughly. So we think a year is too long, but 6 months should be very sufficient, in which case they, of course, would have to provide updated budget information, but we could continue to use the remainders of their applications. So we did also, I had a conversation with Judge Pendry, who is currently serving as our chief local elected official, or CLEO. And I have written documentation from him as well that I'm really frustrated that I can't share my screen with you right now, but I'll just read it if that's okay, Dana. Is that fine?
Yeah. And if you just want to maybe kind of hit the high points, I don't know how long it is, but if you
it's very short, but I'll just say he expresses his support, and then quote, "I share Tara's concerns about conducting such an important decision-making process in the current emergency status in which we all find ourselves in. Furthermore, I do not think it wise to disrupt services at a time when Kentuckians will be needing assistance of this kind more than ever." So
yeah,
those are the highlights.
Yeah.
So Tony put together an updated timeline for you all that would indicate basically continuation of reviewing a budget at the next PY meeting, which is scheduled still for April 14th. With that going to the regularly scheduled executive committee meeting later this month, and to the full board for approval of the budget only May 12th, but then waiting until September for training the PY committee for scoring of RFP proposals, having compliance reviews sent to the PY committee on September 22nd, for their meeting on September 22nd. It looks like here, no. I'm sorry. Having the PY committee on October 13th. That would be a long meeting then, reviewing the proposals. The full WIB would vote on November 10th, and then the contract would be implemented on January 4th. So that would be the updated timeline, just 6 months ahead on everything that we had previously planned to happen this spring would happen in the fall with the contract starting January instead of July. So that would then require an extension and modified contract for the coming 6 months for the current operator and current direct service provider.
Yeah, so thanks, Tara. So essentially we need, we really need two motion on two actions, the extension of the existing contract for those 6 months. And then we need a motion and a second to delay the RFP process until September. Essentially. So are there any, before we start doing that, are there questions about either of those items? Let's do this discussion, I think, maybe before we do the motions, just so that we can have a robust conversation. So I don't think anybody is, I assume nobody is questioning why we're delaying this, but feel free to chime in with questions or comments or other suggestions. So again, just to recap, September 10th for the training, proposal scoring training, September 22nd.
That's when everyone would start scoring, is September 22nd. Oh, you have it too in front of you. Sorry.
Yeah. So we're trying, with the idea being that the Program and Youth Committee in particular has some time to review those RFPs offline, so that by the time we convene on the October 13th meeting, they'll have scores pretty much already in mind, although they can be changed based on the conversations that day, but that's the idea. So people get almost a month, right, to do that on their own. And then the full WIB, it goes to the full WIB on November the 10th for implementation on January 4th. So I just wanted to recap the adjusted timeline. So questions or comments?
Dana, this is,
Go ahead, Jamie.
so I was just going to ask, if we are going to be looking at September the 10th to start the process, when would we expect the applicants to submit their financials again? Because I heard Tara say they're going to have to resubmit their financials.
David is pulling up the timeline right now.
Yep. Can everybody see that now?
Yep.
Thanks, David.
Oh, you're welcome.
Can everybody see?
Let's see. Well, the deadline for the applications was February 26th, and we we're going to send out by, let's see, late March. You probably would have been about to receive all of those for scoring last week. So I would say by this, they would need to have those submitted probably by the end of August.
So maybe we need to add that to this timeline just so we can get a full picture if we can.
Sure, we can do that. Tony, does the end of August?
That makes sense. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we'll add to the timeline that the budget submission deadline will be August 30th.
Is there any concern with actually implementing the contract so close to New Year's? That's not your all's call, but this.
None that I can think of.
I haven't thought of any either.
Okay. Jamie, any other questions?
No.
Okay, thanks. Michelle, I know you had a question.
I was just curious if in 6 months from now, we are still in a situation that might limit us, will we have the ability to extend it another 6 months at that time? Or are we committing to a time right now that's kind of a do or die deadline?
Michelle, I would say that theoretically, if there was a situation where we just felt like there was no way, the state has given us the guidance that we could extend for the total of a year. So it would be the prerogative of the board. I will say that, we will be planning, you guys will be planning the budget over the next couple months. And so, I don't know that we couldn't pivot, but at the same time, I do feel that we probably need to consider that, there will only be so much I think that we can do just from the standpoint of the budget will be approved and the funding amount will be to some degree what it is. But theoretically from the state, they've given us a year. And so if it just continued to devolve, it sounds like we would be able to reconnect. It's just, we would have to renegotiate the contract renewal for another 6 months with the budget too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's kind of the line of questioning I had was around that budget, because we know unemployment obviously affects our budget. So are we going to have that, that data, or will that be reflected as we work through this new budget? Because usually we're looking in the rears at information, and now it's completely different.
Right. So one of the questions I've been asking, and it's not completely clear, is at what point in time does the federal government look at our unemployment rate when they determine our allocation? So I'm still working to figure that out, because depending on when it is, and obviously if it somehow based it prior to coronavirus, we would be talking to them about that. But right now we're budgeting for the coming fiscal year, but we're not going to find out from the federal government, from the state, how much money we're going to get until after the fiscal year. The state fiscal year is really already started. So in many ways, we're actually, by delaying it, potentially going to have more funding coming in as a result of this crisis. But we still will not know that for several months. I don't know if Liberty, if you want to comment any further on that timing, but.
You're absolutely right. We won't know our October allocations until almost December. So, but I think from a budget standpoint, we're going to be better off because we're actually going to know what we have rather than using planning figures.
Okay, thank you. I was just kind of curious how that would line up with our timeline and if it made sense to push it out further just so we could have that information available.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I would add to that, there's absolutely nothing we can do about this, but I had 3 conferences that were all canceled because of all this, and they've already started rescheduling those conferences for kind of the fall timeline. So I don't know how many of our committee members might all of a sudden not be available because they're doing all these makeup conferences. So absolutely nothing we can do about it. It's just something to keep in mind. So.
Okay. Good to know.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so let's first talk about the extension of the current contract and budget for 6 months to ensure that there's no gap in services. I don't know, staff, is there anything else you want to say about that, or do you feel like Tara kind of summarized that? I don't know, Tony, if you had anything you wanted to add before I call for a motion.
So Dana, is that 6 months from today, 6 months from yesterday? What is?
Well, it would be 6 months from, because the current contract ends traditionally would have ended June 30th, and the new contract would have started July 1. So it's cover starting July 1. Is that right, staff? Am I saying that correctly?
Correct.
Yeah. To cover us from July 1, basically until we get this new process and new contracts voted and awarded for January 4th of next year.
So I'm comfortable making the motion that we extend the current contract 6 months from July 1st of 2021.
Thank you, Jamie. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. Any more discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, very good. Thank you. There's that item. Okay, and then the second item was the revision, the timeline revision for current RFPs. I hear the comments about the 12 months, and I think I'm a little hesitant to wait for 12 months. I think, Michelle, to your question, I know a lot can happen between now and then. I feel like 6 months is a good amount of time. And then I think it sounds like we'll have some wiggle room if we need to extend it beyond that. I just feel like if we wait further than that, a lot of the information that we got from the applicants, maybe, I mean, they may have new numbers or new things that they want to say. I just don't know how fresh that their information would be. I'm just hesitant to wait longer than 6 months. So, I mean, that's my view. And we can certainly talk more about that before we take a motion. We feel like we need to. Nope. Okay. So then I get a motion to use the revised timeline for the proposals, and we'll send this out, but based on what Tara and I read off with September, well, actually August kicking off this with the revised budget going through till the end of the year. I need a motion. If somebody can say that more eloquently than I did, that would be great.
I'll motion.
Who was that?
Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle. Michelle.
Tyson.
Tyson.
Yep.
Thank you.
And can I get a second?
I'll second.
That was Carissa.
Thank
I
you.
think somebody else said that to you before. Sorry about that. I didn't catch that.
Sorry.
Okay. Any question or discussion before we vote? Okay, those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Fantastic. Thank you so much, group. The next step for this is you probably also got a meeting invitation for Friday. That was for the full WIB. As our custom is, we bring stuff to this committee first, the executive committee, so we can talk through this kind of stuff, make sure we're on the same page, make these kinds of motions, and then we will bring it to the full WIB, and that's what Friday. And obviously the reason for the special meeting was very much the same as this one. We'll go through this timeline again. We'll go through the guidance from the state, that type of thing. So thank you for that. Tara, was there something else you wanted to talk about on this agenda for today?
Dana, that was all that I had for today. We will update, however, the timeline with the addition of the August 30th in advance of the full WIB meeting on Friday. And I will save my PowerPoint in the right place so that I can still access it while we're doing the call so that I can bring it up on Friday as well.
Hey, Tara, would you have somebody, that meeting invite for Friday didn't come through to my calendar. Would you have somebody send that to me, please?
Yes, sir.
And
I'll just,
Thank you.
may need to make sure John is on that as well.
Yes,
I-
I'll double check, John. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
No, it's okay. I'm not sure. Thought I saw it. I thought I accepted it, but it wasn't on my calendar. So
Maybe you got the one on Friday and not today's. That would make sense.
okay.
So I will
I
double
do have
check all
the
the.
special meeting one for 1 p.m. on Friday though, on the 3rd.
Great. Okay.
Great. Sorry about that, John.
It's all right. I know you're scheming. You're trying to keep me out of this stuff.
No,
I
no.
You
just
don't
wanted to
want any
make sure.
questions. You don't want any challenges. I get it. I get
Yeah.
it.
I said, just make sure John's not included.
No. Felt like I counted and recounted, so I don't know what happened, but
I appreciate you jumping on, John, real quickly.
Sure.
Okay, well, Tara, if there's nothing else, thanks everyone so much. I know this is a crazy, crazy time, and this is not an ideal situation. This is fairly unprecedented, so we've never really had to do this kind of thing before, and hopefully we won't again. And I appreciate your flexibility, and we're doing the best we can for our customers, making sure that they're still getting the services that they need. So thank you all, and I look forward to talking to you again on Friday. And if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
thank you all so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I can't figure out how to stop sharing my screen. You guys want to watch me work for a little while? It's real exciting. Here's February. Look at this dip. Isn't that weird? Oh, well. Oh, I can't figure out how to stop this. Quit Zoom.